Happy Friday, ambitious readers. Welcome back to another edition of Reading Ambitiously, where every single week we bring you the most powerful ideas shaping our world. And this week's big idea is called the transition tax. So let's jump in. The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. Perhaps you've heard that quote before. William Gibson wrote it way before AI ever arrived. But that quote felt especially relevant to me as I drafted the first edition of this from 35,000 feet using United's Starlink Wi-Fi powered by SpaceX that sent these satellites up into space using rockets so that I could send instructions to my army of AI agents who were working on multiple projects in parallel. The technological stack that I am describing that I used from row 33F feels improbable. SpaceX powers the high-speed satellite Wi-Fi. OpenAI and Anthropic powered the AI agents, and all three of these companies are sitting at the center of a $1 trillion market speculation about where the next platform shift is headed. Yet, these technologies remain astonishingly scarce in practice. Out of curiosity, I asked ChatGPT to estimate how many people on Earth might concurrently be using Claude Code on a Starlink-enabled United flight right now. And its guess, maybe 20. The future often arrives in this way, slowly, as a strange little pocket of improbability that barely anyone notices, and then suddenly it's here. That future is already here. But increasingly, the technologies themselves are not the only thing that feels unevenly distributed about it. The more I live in this new world, the more I use AI every single day reflexively to do my job, the more hyper aware I have become to another uneven distribution, our capacity to absorb change. Now, getting off that plane earlier this week, I stepped back into the old world, which was fittingly Chicago O'Hare's Terminal 2. This is the oldest terminal of all of the terminals at O'Hare. You can literally see where the telephone booths once were. And if you spend a couple of hours using all of this new AI technology, and then you try to perform the same work in the old way, there's just no way you're going to want to do it. The new way is too good. But here's the thing. The old systems have not disappeared just because the new ones have arrived. Knowledge workers like myself are now balancing two parallel realities at once. The existing job that we are all still accountable for, and the emerging AI native way to do it. It's energizing, it's invigorating, it's concerning, it's exhausting. It's that whole range of emotions all at the same time. And I feel this tension personally every single week because when I get to Friday morning, after a long week of travel and meetings and operational cadences, and I finally hit go on Reading Ambitiously and publish this thing, I let out the biggest sigh of relief. And then I typically message our CTO and our VP of AI some version of the same thought. Gosh, I had so much to get done this week based on my traditional set of responsibilities, but I cannot wait to continue building out all the AI to redefine my next set of responsibilities. And more often than not, I do not feel like I have enough hours in the day for the latter. And I don't think I'm alone in that because this AI revolution is not arriving into empty calendars. Microsoft now has a term for this. They call it the transformation paradox. Organizations want all the benefits of AI while still measuring performance through legacy systems and incentives. And unfortunately, new technology tends to add complexity before it reduces it, leading to burnout and what feels like a cognitive tax. This is normal. Think about when email arrived. It increased the volume of communication. It changed the expectation for a timely response. Now that AI is here, it's incredibly good at generating content, but we're still reviewing and validating that content the way that we always have, and that's becoming more demanding. Earlier this week, ahead of a recent meeting that I was attending, I received 50 pages of pre-reading material, much of it very carefully curated by our teams, but also helpfully generated by AI. What am I supposed to do? Have AI summarize all of the AI assisted pre reads? Now, companies are beginning to realize that they may need help with this transition. And for many, AI native work is still happening in the shadows. But the market is beginning to professionalize that work. And it's something that my shaman spirit guide, Carleto Perez, the world's foremost economist on technological revolutions, would recognize, because we're past the frenzy. We're either approaching or we've already hit the turning point, and we're entering what she calls the deployment period. And that's not a metaphor. It's literally what the frontier model providers are calling this. As this week, OpenAI announced the OpenAI Deployment Company, a new venture that is staffed with forward deployed engineers that will come into your organizations and help you install AI. It reminds me of a lot when I got to IBM to start my career, which was late in the last digital transformation, where we had employed over 100,000 consultants to help our customers digitize their businesses and go through the information technology revolution. An entire deployment economy was built up to help people adopt this technology. Now, forward thinking organizations like Stripe already seem to understand this, as they recently posted a new job called a forward deployed AI accelerator. And in the job description, they are actually embedding these AI native operators directly into the departments to make AI, quote, the default mode for all work. It would seem the hard part is no longer simply getting access to these technologies, although it's astonishing to me how many people I meet that do not have access to AI yet in the workplace. The hard part is absorbing AI into the daily operation of how you run the business and embracing change. The lesson is that new technologies do not create advantages simply because they exist. They create advantages when we reorganize around them. At first, the new tools get bolted onto the old systems, right? Think about email. It was just faster mail. Websites were just digital brochures. Cloud was essentially just renting servers. And AI, initially, most people use as a better version of a search engine. And that's interesting and useful, but the real leverage, the exponential leverage, shows up when the actual work itself changes shape. The best example of this, or at least the classic one, is electricity. Before factories were electrified, many were organized around a central steam engine. And that engine turned a shaft, and the shaft ran through the building, and belts and pulleys carried power to individual machines. The entire factory was designed around a single constraint, the power source. But then electricity arrived, and many factory owners did not immediately redesign the factory. They just replaced the steam engine with an electric motor while keeping the old shafts and belts and pulleys and layout. They had a new power source, but they were running the old operating model. The real gains came later, when factories put smaller electric motors on the individual machines. And once they did that, and once they removed that central constraint, power no longer had to flow from one central place. The work could be reorganized, the machines could move, production lines could change, the shape of the work could change. And it was the technology that made it possible, but it was the reorganization that led to revolution. A century later, Tesla is the same idea. The car matters, but so did the machine that built the car. Tesla frames it as an effort to turn the factory itself into a product and to build the machine that makes the machine. That is probably the best way to think about AI, to reorganize your entire business around the intelligence that will power the business. The tools are impressive, but the durable advantage will come from the operating system around it. And right now, many companies are using AI like an electric motor attached to the old shaft. AI generated pre-reads and co-pilots layered on top of work that existed well before AI ever did. And that's useful, but it's not the unlock. The better question is not, how do we use AI to do the old work faster? The better question is, what would the work look like if AI were assumed from the beginning? That is the transition tax, not the cost of using AI, although token budgets are coming, not even the 50-page pre-read that AI helped generate that you now have to read like it's still 2019. The transition tax is the cost of reorganizing everything around this technology because the old world is still here, even though the new one has arrived. And most of us are living in the gap between them. We're still landing in Terminal 2 while our agents are still working somewhere above the clouds. The ultimate long term advantage is going to go to individuals and companies that are willing to close that gap, not just by electrifying the shaft, but by redesigning the entire factory and paying that transition tax. It's going to be worth it. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. It's my pleasure to be with you every single week. Reading ambitiously is truly one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, and I do it for our readers every single week. Please do take care of each other. We'll be back with you again soon.